Good afternoon and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. We're here with episode 10. Today's episode shouldn't be quite as long as some of the other episodes. Not as much to talk about. I'm trying to get closer to doing 3 episodes a week. So we did an episode on Monday where we talked about the very busy weekend that happened, from on Friday and Saturday and such. And on Friday, I'm going to do another episode where we're going to talk about another busy weekend that's coming up. As I'm sure everyone knows, David Benavidez and Dave Morrell are headlining the first big-time boxing event of the year. I know that we've had some big ones, but this is the first, great matchup. And it's on pay-per-view, the first pay-per-view boxing event of the year. Fantastic fight in the 175-pound division. These two are evenly matched, and they're not even the top two guys in the division. So can't wait for that one. We've also got Claressa Shields. She defends her titles and looks to get some new ones. I believe it's undisputed heavyweight potential against Danielle Perkins on Sunday. That's in Flint, Michigan. Then we've got also on Saturday UFC Saudi Arabia. Really big card. To be honest, I think that this card is better than UFC 312 the following week. We got the return of Israel Adesanya against Nasruddin Imavov. Then you've also got Shara Magomedov, Michael Venom Page. Brilliant fight. Really good card on that there as well. Adam Azim versus Sergey Lipinets is also on Saturday. That should be a pretty good fight. I'm not too high on Adam Azim right now, just from what we're hearing about how many people he's, refused to fight. But Sergey Lipinets is a real deal. It's another test for him. He looks to get the IBO World Championship. Card is not as good as it once was. We know we're supposed to get Vidal Riley, Isaac Chamberlain on there. Now we're going to have Callum Simpson defending his belt. Jamie TKV, or Jamie I think it is going to fight Webster, who just fought Solomon Dakers twice last year. So that should be pretty good. Other than that, don't think that there's really a whole lot of other big fights on the card. A lot of prospects, but, should be a good top few fights at least. Also on Saturday, we have the very next BKFC event. This one in the Mohegan Sun, headlined by Julian Lane. This should be a pretty good fight night. It's another bigger BKFC event. I'm glad that they immediately are right back on it. Knucklemania was huge, and I think that it really just boosted their growth a lot. So it's good to see that they're going to hop right back on to the hype. I think that, personally, before Knucklemania, I liked BKFC. Now I'm like, I love it way more than I have in the past. And usually before this, I was like, yeah, I'll probably watch Benavidez Morrell and then I'll watch the BKFC card in the morning. Now I may watch both of them at the same time just because BKFC is just like so like, you can just turn your brain off and just like look over 45-second fight and it's great. So I think I may do that. Friday, we've got a few fight cards. There is the WBA Bridgerweight Championship in the morning. I actually don't even know if it's on the line, but the champion is fighting on an IBA Champions Night. Going to try to watch that. We've got the very next Matchroom Next Gen show on Friday. That's headlined by George Liddard and Junaid Boston. They both fight for their first titles in 10-rounders. And then you've got that night, Mauricio Lara returns to the ring in Mexico City after a loss to Lee Wood and then a draw with Daniel Lugo. And that was, about a year ago now. So haven't seen him in the ring for a while. I think that he's still got a good bit to give, potentially. At least he could be a really good gatekeeper and test a lot of, good fighters, a fringe contender. So we'll see. But he's got a fight on Friday. So a lot of good fights coming up over the weekend. That Benavidez Morrell card. Like I said, I can't wait for that. It's a fantastic fight. You've got Brandon Figueroa, Stephen Fulton in the co-main. That's brilliant. Isaac Cruz, Jesus Ramos, and the prelims will be good. So it's going to be a really great weekend for combat sports. Anyways, that's the next episode. We're going to talk a lot more about what's going on there. Today's episode, the big topic really is, I'm sure everybody saw what happened yesterday. The Paul brothers have done it again in breaking the internet. And everyone's talking about, oh my God, they're going to fight. Listen, there is no way that they're actually fighting. So if you've been following what's been going on recently with Jake Paul, after the McTyson fight, I think it was it was a month ago. It was in December. He tweeted saying like huge announcement coming in January, boxing. teasing something big, and everyone's like, okay, this is likely going to be his next fight announcement. The thing with Jake Paul, and I remember he's done this before, is he has a lot of announcements, and they're not all, I'm going to fight. One time it was, I have an announcement coming up, and I'm going to be training with the Team USA Olympians ahead of Paris in the summer, and that was like about a year ago. And that was a cool announcement. That was cool that he trained with them and supported them, and brought his star power to helping grow theirs. Or it was something like, I remember this one specifically because it pretty much annoyed me how Mike Tyson, when the first fight with Mike Tyson fell through, or the first date I should say, for July 20th, it was unsure if they were going to come back and do another event like they did with Mike Perry. And we were hearing, they're going to, they're looking to continue, they're looking to reschedule like a new opponent at a new venue. And then we were hearing it was Mike Perry, but then he tweeted, something around the same, saying like, announcement coming. And I remember I got super excited to see Jake Paul and Mike Perry because that was a fight I was super excited for, and it was a really good fight. And then I opened it, and he announced the deodorant line, and I was like, okay, great. So I had my reservations about this announcement because nowhere were they saying this is the new fight announcement. I thought it was well-timed. It's just been 2 months since Mike Tyson. Jake Paul usually fights like 3 times a year. I thought, okay, this is what we're going to get. And so I'm expecting it. I open my phone after, not being on it for a few hours, and I see the poster of him and Logan. And for about 20 seconds, I was just so, just wowed. I was like, oh my goodness. Not necessarily I was excited, but I was just, shocked. And I just saw, to be honest, for a second, I thought it was a parody. When I saw Max, I was like, okay, another one? This seems like it's, not making fun, but, being like, Netflix, we got another one, so it's like, okay, this could be a charade. And the date is a Thursday. It's March 27th. And I'm like, a Thursday night. And I'm like, are they really going to fight? And I started thinking, hold on. Nowhere on here does it say versus. It hasn't been confirmed anywhere. There's no venue on here. There's no location. All we know is Jake Paul and Logan Paul facing off, and they've done 2 face-offs since then, in their gym, to try and hype this up. And that even more so makes you think, okay. And they have a press conference tomorrow on Instagram Live. So it's not going to be like the typical fight press conference. It's going to be them on a live stream on Instagram. So we're really going to find out what the project is tomorrow. What everyone assumed is that, okay, all the smaller news outlets just took it and ran with it. I looked up, I was like, okay, let me see, and I went to news. It's all saying Jake Paul and Logan Paul announced boxing match, and I'm like, hold on, nowhere does it say this is a boxing match. And I'm thinking this is some kind of project they're doing. Maybe it is them fighting on the same card. Maybe it's a movie or a show, and when I say movie, I mean documentary. I hope it's a documentary at least, not a movie. And so that's what everyone else seems to start to think after a second of being excited. Like, okay, it's probably going to be a documentary or something. Then we hear Mike Coppinger says it's not a fight, it's a reality series. And the reality series is like, oh, okay. So on one hand, I think this is master marketing. That's what we know that they're best at. They're really good at promotion. That's why they've succeeded so far in the fight game. Is just, bringing their own, innovative and, tricky way to marketing. This is very deceptive marketing. Logan Paul is a very good marketer, as is his brother. So I'm not surprised at all that they took this angle. I think it's really smart. However, the only downside to it is, again, it brought them a ton of attention. Everyone's super excited, like, oh, man, they're going to fight. It's going to really bum a lot of people out when they announce, we're going to do Keeping Up with the Pauls instead of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Nobody would really, at least maybe not nobody, but a lot of people would not really be interested in that. And while a lot more people are going to know about it now because everyone's interested in what they're cooking up for March, we're going to find out, oh, it's this. And it's going to be like, oh, okay. And it's going to piss some people off. So, yeah, a lot more people are going to find out about your show. It'll get more traction. That doesn't mean it's going to be more successful and more people are going to watch it. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Anyways, I think this is a really smart tactic on their part. It was a really smart move. Part of me is like, oh man, that'd be sick. The numbers they would do, genuinely, that could be bigger than Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. These are probably the 2 biggest YouTubers of all time, at least up there. And they're both so hated. And to see them beat the shit out of each other would draw in a ton of views. And the Mike Tyson one was different because Mike Tyson is a generational, superstar. I don't know if they do the same numbers, but them two, especially off the heels of the Mike Tyson fight, would go crazy. I mean, it's by far, that is bigger than Jake Paul versus KSI or probably Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor either. So, I think that this makes sense. Another idea that popped in my head is, we know that Logan Paul, Conor McGregor doesn't look like it's happening. Is this the replacement? Is this where they're now going to do India, and they're going to get a lot of money? Because they always said, we're not going to fight. And that's what brings, and, money speaks. But what worries me is that, listen, y'all are brothers. As much as I would love to see it and it'd be a spectacle, and, I think that we all know Jake would probably win, but I don't know if I really want to see two brothers fight, especially knowing the history that they have. I was a kid when they were doing, like, the diss tracks on each other and stuff, like 8 years ago or something like that now. And I know I've heard them talk about how they haven't always been as close as they are now. And, like, a lot of that when they were first blowing up and they were, like, extremely hated. Like, yeah, a lot of people like them now, but, I mean, they were insufferable back when they were, like, vlogging every day. And just their egos and competing with each other, I kind of worry. I care about, seeing the boxers. I care about their health. And I don't know if I want to see a family get ruined to make a few bucks. So part of me is like, I don't really want to see it that much. I don't have any desire. Same with, like, the Klitschko's. They never fought and nobody complained, So I don't think that we need to see these two brothers fight. But if they did, holy, it would be huge. So I think that there's about a 3% chance it's a fight. And they continue doing the deceptive marketing. And if you remember when when Logan Paul and KSI announced Prime, they had, like, a little poster, of them not facing off, but, like, other fight posters where they're, side by side saying, like, the next chapter, with, like, a date and time for, like the Instagram Live, same thing. And that was when they announced Prime. So, it could be the same thing, the same type of deceptive marketing. So I don't think that they are fighting. It would be insane, and I think this is super smart on their part, but I think that they may have messed up a little bit with really decepting the public, and they're going to piss a lot of people off, but they'll gain more eyes, and I don't think they really care about making people mad. Anyways, that's the big topic. We're going to get into some other little topics that I've heard about in the past few days, some news that's been going on. First off, we're going to start with Andy Cruz potentially versus Maxie Hughes. Now, I actually think Maxie Hughes was the one who called out Andy Cruz. He said, listen, we're both top 5 in the WBA. This could make sense for an eliminator. Let's do it. Let's have it. And I'm like, you know what? That's a brilliant fight. And I'm really, Maxie Hughes is one of those guys who he'll take the fight. It was his idea, which a lot of guys will not take the fight with Andy Cruz, especially where I think this is a perfect fight for Andy Cruz right now. We've seen, don't throw him in with someone like Keyshawn yet. He's not ready for a world title yet. But putting him in with a fringe contender like Maxie Hughes, who's coming off 1 or 2 good wins, who does have a good ranking, who could get him that eliminator elevated spot to then go in there with Tank Davis. I like it. I think it's a really good match. It's in-house. Maxie is with Matchroom as of right now. Andy Cruz is a Matchroom fighter. Make it. That's a brilliant fight. It makes sense. The only thing is that, Maxie Hughes has 7 losses. I don't think there's any way that he beats Andy Cruz. I'll say that. Gary Coley is not the same fighter as Andy Cruz is. And I picked Maxie Hughes to beat Gary Coley, and he did. And I think that part of me is like, this could really ruin his career. And I know that he's come back. He's 7 defeats, and he's still top 5 in the WBA and had a big win. But I think that Andy Cruz is very good, and I think that Andy Cruz could seriously hurt him and definitely beat him. And I think that after that, an 8th loss and how far down you're going to fall from that one, it may be time to hang him up. So part of me is like, oh, well, no, Maxie Hughes, you should fight some other good fighters that aren't Andy Cruz top 10 lightweight. level. But then I'm like, nah, screw it. I don't like seeing it when they've got this position and they go and fight a ton of trash cans. Get in there, make a 50-50 fight. And this isn't a 50-50 fight, but it's a good fight. It's a good matchup. For where Andy Cruz in his career, this is a jump. This is by far his biggest test. I love it. I think that the team over at Matchroom should make this immediately. Speaking of Matchroom, in a way, Filip Hrgović, somebody on his team posted a video of him in training in the snow saying February, like ready for February, which is next month. And it got me thinking, I was like, where has Filip Hrgović been? We haven't seen him anywhere since the Dubois defeat. And then I heard somewhere that he had said when he, in the build-up to Daniel Dubois, that if he were to lose to Dubois, he would retire. And, he's not like somebody who's like a huge character in boxing, who's, big on social media or whatever. It wouldn't surprise me if he just upped and gone. And that's what it seemed like it was going to happen. I was like, it's been 7 months. We haven't seen him anywhere. No sightings of him. What if he did just quietly retire? He was never a huge name anyways. He was very highly ranked in the heavyweight division. But we haven't really seen what's been going on. Well, he's now back, it looks like. I'm glad he's going to come back because there's no need to retire. He had one loss on cuts to Daniel Dubois, who's, top of the world right now, but you can definitely come back and have some good wins. I don't know if he'll ever be world champion, but it's not time to hang it up quite yet. So I'm glad to see that he's coming back. A fight that a lot of people have been talking about and has been rumored is Moses Atauma. That is a brilliant, brilliant fight. I think that it's definitely, I think it's closer than Andy Cruz Maxi Hughes just because Moses Atauma has blowed all of these other fighters out of the water, and he'd probably go in as the favorite. The issue is that we've never seen Moses Atauma in with someone anywhere near the level that Hrgović is at, right now at least. So I think it'd be a big test for Moses. And I don't know if Moses could even stop him. And I think Hrgović could have a chance of winning if, he finds a way to make the unstoppable Moses Atauma stop. But I think it's a really good fight. The only other issue I have is that, okay, Filip Hrgović, you have so much left to give in your career. Are you already going to become a gatekeeper? He could fight another, fringe contender. Not even fringe contender. He could fight another contender. I mean, would anybody complain about Filip Hrgović versus Deontay Wilder? It's maybe not the sexiest matchup for Wilder, but it's a pretty competitive fight, I think. So I would love to see Atauma Hrgović. That would definitely be my interest. It's not going to happen in February unless they do something crazy and add that to the last crescendo card, which would be nuts. I don't think they're going to do that, though. But he may be coming back in February, someone on a smaller show. I don't know if he's really with Matchroom anymore, or returning on the undercard of someone else's show, just in like a 10-rounder against someone lame and then getting back in with the big name. That actually could be what happened. We know that's what happened with Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith. Callum Smith came back after a while, had an 8-rounder against a journeyman, knocked him out in a couple of rounds. A few days later, he's announced to be fighting Joshua Buatsi for the interim championship of the world. Could be the actual exact same situation here. Say Filip Hrgović returns on the February 15th show, Ketaro Barboza, like a 10-rounder against somebody, we don't know. Then he gets announced a few days later, whatever the next Riyadh season card is, that he's going to fight Moses Atauma for the WBO interim championship. I'd love it. But I don't know if we're going to see that. I don't know if that'll happen. He's a great fighter. I'm glad to see that he's coming back. This is a topic I'm excited about. So apparently ProBox TV has won the rights to Erickson Lubin versus Ardreal Holmes Jr., which is the IBF-ordered final eliminator to fight Bakram Murtazaliev. By the way, do I think that Lubin and Holmes are the top 10 154-pounders in the world? No, I don't. But I think it's a damn good matchup. I think it's a really good fight. Holmes has been, on the Salida shows, not getting a ton of views, at least a ton of traction as a big name and stuff, but very good prospect. I've seen him fight. He's super good. Then you got Lubin, who, he's had a couple of losses, but just came off a controversial win against Ramos. Actually, I shouldn't say controversial. That was almost a year and a half ago now, so he needs to come back. Anyways, it's a good fight. I think that they're evenly matched. I'd be excited to see how that one goes, and I'm really happy it's going to be on ProBox. See, before I thought that Lubin was with PBC. Now it seems he's gone over to ProBox, which is actually a few I've noticed that with a few fighters, and I think I saw somebody say on X that PBC is like renting them out almost because they barely have any shows. You know, on Pro Box TV, they go and headline these Pro Box shows. It's perfect for them. But I think that fight between the two of them is so good. I'm glad that Pro Box won it. I'd much rather see it on a Pro Box TV card than I would a Salida card, just because I want to see Pro Box TV rise. I mean, they're really stepping up the levels. They had a great show last week. They're going to have Ramon Cardenas return next week against Acosta. And then they've got Joe Shawn, Showtime James, Showtime, I thought it said Showtime. Anyways, he's in with Lester Martinez. That's on the same card at, a smaller arena in San Antonio. So, like they're moving around. They're doing a Saturday Night fight card. They're doing a big fights, so I mean, like, they really are stepping up the levels, and I would love to see them get their hands on this one. I saw somebody else say that they're looking to do Nikolaus Flaz versus Gabriel Maestra. The same, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did Maestra, was he not the fighter that just fought Stanionis in May on the Canelo Munguia card and took him the distance? Or actually, wait, no. I think I'm mistaken. I think that he was... No, yeah, he did take him the distance. I'm getting confused with someone else. Yeah, he went the distance with Stanionis. Didn't win by any metric, but good fighter. Him and Flaz is a great fight. Nicolas Flaz is another under-the-radar, fantastic prospect. Apparently they're going to plan to do those on the same show. That would be phenomenal. I mean, that would sell a few thousand tickets for sure. So, really happy to see what Pro Box is doing. They're really getting up there. I wouldn't be surprised if the end of the year they've got, they've already got Angelo Leo. They've got a few contenders now. I could see them signing someone like pretty decent. I wouldn't be surprised if they had more shows, if they got rid of the YouTube streams, which I would hate, but you have to do it at some point, and if they made their app a subscription, but a cheap one. And part of me hopes they do, because I hope that they succeed. Speaking of Pro Box, on October 23rd, I remember last year, we had Sharetta Metcalf versus Mio Yoshida. That was in New York, I believe. It was on a Lou DiBella show that Pro Box TV aired. And apparently they're going to fight for a third time. That was their second time. Metcalf has won both fights controversially, I can add. So the IBF is looking to immediately order a third fight, which is awesome. I mean, by far they're not huge names in the sport. I believe their fight at 118. I could be wrong. I think that Metcalf is the IBF 118 champion, bantamweight. I would love to see this one run back. They're going to make like a little bit of a trilogy of themselves, so a very good rivalry. So I'm excited to see if they get that fight over the line. I think that'd be really fun, really good fight. Put it on a Pro Box card again with Lou DiBella. The fights, I didn't see the first one, but the second one was okay. It wasn't super exciting, but I definitely thought that Yoshida won. So I'd love it if she, got her chance for a third time so the judges can get it right, because I think that she is a really, really good fighter. She beat Ebony Bridges for that belt in December 2023. Another huge, probably the biggest female rivalry, besides Taylor Serrano, is Claressa Shields and Savannah Marshall. The PFL said the other day that they will still support a Shields-Marshall rematch in MMA. And I would like to see it in boxing more so, but also part of me wouldn't mind seeing it in MMA. We've seen them fight in the amateurs and the Olympics, or at least the Olympic trials. We've seen them fight professionally in 2022. Let's do it in MMA. I think that'd be fun. Fight in 3 different mediums, if you will. However, also part of me is like, that's such a big fight for boxing. We don't get that many women's like super fights. That'd be a really good one to do in boxing. However, I kind of like the idea of them, switching it up and going to MMA and doing what a lot of boxers haven't done, and that's going to MMA. We've seen a lot of MMA fighters come into boxing. We haven't seen a lot of boxers going to MMA, except for the women. So I say do it. That's a big event for PFL. I think PFL, after that first event, they've got a lot of traction going with them right now, similar to BKFC after having a great event. So I think that they could really capitalize on this, do some more big super fights. Don't worry about the season as much. Do some big unique fights. I love to see that. I also love to see it in boxing, UK or US, doesn't really matter, but they definitely need to fight one more time, because Clarissa Shields doesn't have that many other big fighters for her to fight. I mean, she can fight Shadeja Green. She can fight Savannah Marshall again, but really that's it. I don't buy into the Baumgardner and Serrano talk. I think they're way too small for her. So, I mean, she's got to get it going. She's got to get it going with Savannah Marshall again. They have a huge rivalry. I'd love to see it happen a third time overall. Good afternoon and welcome back to In the Corner. I'm Cash. We're here with episode 10. Today's episode shouldn't be quite as long as some of the other episodes. Not as much to talk about. I'm trying to get closer to... Speaking of women's boxing, another big news piece that came earlier today is that Eddie Hearn said that they are starting to negotiate a Katie Taylor-Amanda Serrano trilogy fight. I think that this is going to happen, by the way. You know, I mean, boxing sometimes can be difficult. It took them a while to get the rematch done. I think this will happen, especially because the second fight was pretty controversial and how much viewership they got on Netflix, how many people are interested in women's boxing now, particularly just Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, and seeing that fight run back yet another time. Eddie Hearn said the potential locations are Las Vegas and Croke Park in Ireland. Now, both those fights I love. I love seeing women headline in Vegas. That'd be awesome. That'd be sick. It'd be historic. Also, part of me is like, you know, Croke Park would make sense. The first fight was in New York. I know there's a pretty good Irish population there. I feel like the Puerto Rican population is maybe bigger. And then they went to Texas, which isn't really either their territories, but it was an MVP show. First one was a matchroom show, so you've kind of done it there. You know, Amanda got the home edge a little bit in both sides. Now, I think it's fair you do Katie's side, her hometown, and it makes sense to do it in Ireland because she's earned it. This is the biggest fight of her career. They've been wanting to do Croke Park. This is a good reason to do it. You can do it now. Before, you know, they said that Croke Park wasn't sure if they wanted to do it because, you know, they needed it to be a big event. This would be a massive event. I hope they do it in Croke Park. I wouldn't be mad if it's in Las Vegas. I wouldn't care if it was in a backyard because I just need to see these women run it back one more time. They are like magic in the ring together. The best rivalry in the history of the sport in women's boxing. We need to see it a third time this year. And you do it in Croke Park. Katie Taylor's probably towards the end of her career. I wouldn't be mad if she retired after that, even if she lost. You know, doing a retirement fight at Croke Park against Amanda Serrano would be amazing. Dalton Smith has already vacated his EBU European title. Just to let you know, he vacated it today on Wednesday. He won the belt on Saturday. 5-day run. And apparently he'd already, you know, said he was going to do this so that Pierce O'Leary and John Fernandez could fight for the vacant belt so that he didn't hold up the division, which part of me is like, okay, I respect that. I get that. However, what the hell was the point of winning it? He literally just did it to put it on his record, and they kept saying, oh, the belt collector. He's gotten them all now. He's gotten all the belts before a world title. That's the only one missing. And they just did that just so that they could say, oh, he was a European champion. He collected the belt. Check him off the list. I'm not really a fan of that. That kind of annoyed me. It kind of bothered me a little bit just because I feel that, you know, like O'Leary and Fernandez are waiting to fight for it. They could have fought for it. And I'm not like, oh, you don't deserve it. But, you know, it just feels a little bit like unnecessary to just fight for the belt just to say you have it with no intentions of, you know, sometimes people get in and they're like, okay, I'm going to vacate. He had no intention of actually keeping it. So, I don't know. I also would have rather seen him fight O'Leary or Fernandez. He wiped Weeza out of the water. So, whatever. Last thing we'll talk about, Teofimo Lopez must fight Jack Catterall, Arnold Barboza winner within 180 days of their fight. So, as we know, Catterall and Barboza are fighting February 15th in Manchester. It was going to be an eliminator. It's now an interim title fight. And they desperately, both those guys desperately need the, you know, to get their world title shot. Catterall has been one fight away for 4 fights. Barboza has been WBO #1 mandatory for like 3 years now. It needs to happen. It's a fantastic fight between them two. They're doing it with the WBO. Teofimo Lopez is the champion there. And he is supposed to fight them within 180 days. Do I think that he fights them? No. And it's not because I think he's ducking and he's going to vacate for that reason. We know that Teofimo Lopez is going to looking to unify with Richardson Hitchens, who's the IBF 140-pound champion. I would rather see that, if I'm being honest. I want to see unifications at 140. It's too there's not enough going on there. They've got all these fantastic fighters and no unifications, and some of the champions we have are just don't even represent how amazing that division is. So if he chooses to fight Hitchens, then yeah, I'm okay with it. And then the winner of that will end up getting upgraded, which I don't love, but what are you going to do? Now, if he doesn't unify with Hitchens for whatever reason, I would like to see him fight the winner of this fight in the summer, sometime before October, where we know that he's going to fight Boots Ennis. That's another reason, is that he may be like, even if he doesn't fight Hitchens at all, he may be like, I'm not really going to, I don't care. I'm not going to have time to defend it. I'm moving up. He's going to fight at 140 one more time probably. And then he's going up to 147 because he's going to fight Boots in Riyadh season in October. So, there's not a lot of reason for him to stay and try and get the fight, against Calderon Barboza. I don't think he's going to defend against him. If he isn't unifying and if he's not 147 pounds, that is the fight that he needs. If you're not going to fight Boots, if you're not going to fight Hitchens, you need to defend your belt. It must be against one of those two men. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Shorter episode, not a lot to talk about. I'll be back on Friday with more. Can't wait for this weekend. Hope everyone's week is going well. Let me know if there's anything you want me to talk more about on the podcast, if you want to be a co-host, any questions, comments, concerns. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on Friday. Peace.